Salud! There is a new demo god in professional wrestling, a new ratings king. WWE pulling in big numbers this past Monday night. And there is a new ratings juggernaut in WWE. We'll talk about who that individual is in this very upload. Trinity Fatu, Naomi, returning to World Wrestling Entertainment. I have the latest. And Andrade showing up this past Tuesday night on NXT. Not so fast. And Nick Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler, a big debut last night for Dolph Ziggler. We'll talk all about it. It's all coming up in this very upload. And there's a lot to discuss, not a lot of time to do such. So if you don't mind, I'm going to jump right into it. This past Monday night's rating, it was big. After the adjustment, we are getting word that Monday Night Raw pulled a 1.75 rating. That may not seem that big to a lot of you guys. We remember when Raw was pulling in 7, 8, 9 million consistently. But a 1.75, when just last week you pulled 650,000 viewers. That was the best of Raw, by the way. It was the holiday edition. It was Christmas. We totally get it. But it's still 650,000 viewers. The problem with that is now you have to get a lot of the viewers you had the week before. You have to try to get all of them back. You're not going to do that normally, right? It's going to be a process. A lot of those people that didn't watch last week, a lot of them will not watch the second week as well because now they see there's no FOMO, there's no fear of missing out. You're going to have to try to get them back over time. That's why these best of shows, or if you take a week off, they hurt big time. The other problem is even if you got all of your audience before last week, 2 weeks ago, you're still only averaging 1.4 the last 3 months on Monday Night Raw. 1.4 is their average. Since Paul Levesque McMahon has taken over, 1.4, the lowest numbers in Raw's history. So even if you got all of the viewers from 2 weeks ago back, you weren't doing better than a 1.5 at best. They just came back after a week off, and they scored a 1.75, a .60 in the 18 to 49 demo. That's the highest since CM Punk's return back in November, I believe the 27th. That week's Monday Night Raw. This is the highest since then in that demo. If you're wondering, competition, right? It was stiff. College football, really big here in the States. The Rose Bowl pulled in 30 million viewers. 30 million! Way more than most NFL Monday Night Football games for those keeping track. 30 million. And by the way, there was another bowl, the Sugar Bowl, which pulled in another 18 million viewers. Massive numbers. Yet WWE pulled 1.75. This is what I mean when I say, when you're looking at numbers, you can't just say, yeah, but there was stiff competition. That's why they didn't do well. No, they didn't do well because they didn't give the audience a reason to care to take the remote control and switch it over to the USA Network. And those that did, they didn't feel like they should put it down, or they didn't program it into their last channel button, so that even in commercial breaks for the football game, they'll tune over to wrestling. No, it doesn't happen anymore. Right? That's the real truth about competition. If you're putting your best foot forward in your best product, you're going to get a decent to good number bare minimum. If you're not, it's not competition's fault. It's because you're not giving your audience a reason to care enough to tune into your channel and watch your product. This is one of those examples with some of the stiffest competition they've had in recent memory. Yet they pulled over 1 million viewers from last week, and they pulled over 300,000 viewers over their average for the last 4 months. Hundreds of thousands of more viewers against the stiffest competition you could come across. That's why I say, competition will affect your number. It will not be the reason you fail or succeed. There's not an NFL game. There's not a Monday Night Football game. There's not a playoff. There's not a playoff that can make you fail. Back in the day, Nitro and Raw was whooping football's ass because they were producing must-see TV. When the glass shattered, you had to see what Stone Cold was doing. When the NWO's music hit, you had to see what destruction was about to occur. So, Jinder Mahal is the centerpiece to all of this, right? He's the focal point. It's Jinder Mahal that brought in this 175. Now, that happened at the top of the third hour, and of course, that raised all the interest. People started flicking over. Jinder Mahal is back. This is massive. Right? Everybody was interested. What is Jinder going to do next? What is Jinder Mahal? What's the plan? Is he going to be in the main event of Mania? How many titles are they going to give Jinder Mahal? As a big Jinder Mahal supporter, I was on cloud nine the entire segment because they also brought back The Rock. And The Rock did something with Jinder, and then he set up a match with Roman Reigns, but that's secondary. It's really about what they're about to do with Jinder Mahal. That's got the wrestling world talking. 1.75. I can't keep a straight face. We all know it was The Rock. I am a Jinder Mahal supporter, by the way. Yeah, you catch a lot of flack with that. That's a hot take and a half. But I like Jinder Mahal. But I totally understand you don't put him on TV unless you have something big, because the majority of the audience does not want to see Jinder Mahal. And that's why I always say I'm the most fairest critic, the most fairest reviewer, the fairest podcaster you're going to find in the community, because even if it's one of my favorite dudes or gals, I'm still going to call it down the middle. I really like Jinder Mahal. I totally understand why nobody wants to see him on TV, and that's why I don't push for it. Sasha Banks, Bray Wyatt, those are my favorite dudes and gals there. Bray Wyatt, Sasha Banks, and there's a reason why I spoke and speak so highly of them. So, it's not just, I don't show favoritism, or I'm not biased to certain individual just because I support them or I back them. I'm still going to call it down the middle. I like Jinder Mahal. There's just no place for him unless you're going to have something big that's going to really intrigue the audience. I just don't see a place for Jinder, unfortunately. So, I don't know if this is going to change anything doing this segment with The Rock, but this is the time to strike while the iron is hot. Many years ago, they had Miro, Rusev, and The Rock doing a segment like this. I think that was Brooklyn, New York. And I was like, this is the moment for Lana and Rusev to be catapulted. And unfortunately, they dropped the ball. They didn't do anything after that Rock segment. And it's sad because they could have been something epic. But The Rock comes back, and of course, he drops that bombshell hint, that tease of the Roman Reigns match. And of course, that's going to set the interest in motion. Those not watching Raw are now interested. They're clicking over. Their little YouTube video of it is over 3 million hits. Over 3 million. These are massive numbers. Could you imagine if he was advertised? Could you imagine if they pulled a 175 unannounced at 10 o'clock, the third hour? Could you imagine if this dude was advertised? You could be talking 2 million plus for a Monday Night Raw that scored 650K the week before. And that averages 1.4 since Paul Levesque McMahon took over. That's pretty massive, right? That's pretty big, man. Against competition like the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, a collective 48 million viewers between the two. That's what I mean. When you hear people try to talk about numbers like they know what they're talking about, and they talk about, well, the Raw got dinged up because of competition. No, it got dinged up because it didn't give anybody anything to talk about. Of course the game is more fun to talk about. Nothing happened on Monday night. That's usually our discussion every Monday. This past Monday, it was pretty damn good. Day one, you got the championship main event. The ladies crushed it. Rhea Ripley, Ivy Nile. Oh, that was a good match. And then you got the talking point of The Rock. Are you kidding me? And then you got this fun discussion in the community. It's a good problem to have. There's too many main events for Mania. That's a good problem, right? Seth Rollins versus CM Punk has to main event one of the two nights. Roman Reigns and The Rock has to main event one of the nights. It's The Rock. I mean, the fact that we're even talking about Elimination Chamber is absolutely asinine. One of the biggest stories in pro wrestling history, without The Rock and Roman even coming face to face. That family legacy, and it's all on the line. Obviously, Dwayne Johnson is the provider of the family, but for Roman Reigns, for years, he's been claiming he's the head of the table, and now finally The Rock has had enough. Goosebumps! And you're going to put this at 6 a.m., 3 a.m. for their family and friends over in Hawaii. 3 o'clock in the morning at Elimination Chamber because it's over in Australia or somewhere. You're going to put that on a B-level show because it's in a stadium. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is going to be sleeping and have to watch it on demand. And it could happen, by the way. It could happen. There's going to be money either way, and that will allow Cody to finish a story that should have been a year ago. So for a lot of us, it's just like, get the damn story done with. It's not the same feeling as last year where it was organic. Now it's just like, get it done. But that's the third match, right? Cody Rhodes versus Roman. People, that's got to be a Mania main event. So you have all these Mania main events. The problem is there's only two nights. You can only have two main events. It's a good problem to have. Interesting, man. Very, very interesting. The Rock returning and pulling that 175. Of course, with a little bit of fun, we like to say Jinder Mahal brought in the rating. Not quite. I'm pretty sure it was The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, popping that 175, bringing over 1 million viewers back from last week. That might be the biggest jump in Monday Night Raw history, by the way. 1 million plus. Again, that was a best of Christmas edition. That's why they pulled 650. But still, the numbers are numbers. That might be the biggest jump from week to week. Over 1 million viewers in 1 week. 175, which is well above Raw's average the last 4 months. So, Paul Levesque, one of the analogies we've been using for the holiday season is Home Alone. The hotel clerk who finds out that Kevin McAllister's credit card is stolen and he's got that shit-eating grin. That's Paul Levesque McMahon seeing that 175. So, salute. The better WWE does, everybody else, every other promotion, everybody else is going to thrive. So that's why I always say you better be rooting for WWE success because every other promotion kind of depends on that. Even other countries, even Japan feels the effects of that. Much better business for even them when WWE is actually hot. And I feel like I know it's WrestleMania season. We always get that way anyway. So, you can't give just one or two people the props on that. But, it's good to have that feeling again where there's a lot of good things to discuss and a lot of good problems. Like, we have too many WrestleMania events. We got to put one of them at Elimination Chamber. We'll see. The Rock and Jinder, 175. Monday Night Raw absolutely crushes it amidst competition that was stiff. I hope this finally puts to bed this competition BS. It affects the number. How much it affects you is how good your show is. Concentrate on your show. That's why Raw and Nitro back in the day whooped Monday Night Football NFL ass, because it was must-see. There may have been a really good game on. You just couldn't pull away from Stone Cold and the NWO and Sting and what Bret Hart and Michaels were doing. DX and the Hart Foundation. Canada versus US. Meanwhile, on the other channel, the NWO is causing complete havoc. Who's joining the NWO next? Did Sting just join the NWO? You ain't thinking about the Raiders versus the Dolphins? Competition will only affect you as much as you let it. Don't let it. Concentrate on your product and making it the best. 1.75. Speaking of, where do you want to go? Well, it's not really competition, but Impact Wrestling, a big star for them. Trinity Fatu, formerly known as Naomi in WWE. One of BC's favorites, obviously. I make that perfectly known. But I don't show favoritism or bias when critiquing or reviewing Naomi. I just believe she is one of the, and it's not believe, it's fact. She's one of the most athletic females you will ever come across in pro wrestling. And the fact that she only has 2 titles and 2 championship singles titles and 10 years with WWE is unacceptable. That's why we say Charlie with 13, 14, whatever it is. If you add in the NXT titles, it's like 15. That's why we say Charlie's just not better than Naomi. She's just not. She's not more athletic and wrestling-wise. Natural selection, a botched moonsault, and a figure 8 leg lock does not make you better than Naomi. Just doesn't. On the microphone, you don't light a candle there either. It's not. A lot of people call her robotic even. So no, you're gonna bash Naomi for mic skills. You better start calling out some robotics. That's why we make that comparison. One is being catapulted, 18 rockets on her back, catapulted to the moon. The other never really got anything, but she's so good. So she took her talents over to Impact, and she's been rocking it. Impact, TNA, always has a really good women's division. Again, Gail Kim, one of the masterminds behind it. Gail Kim is amazing, and she has a good mind for the business, for the women especially. So I'm not shocked that she's been crushing it over there, but where am I getting at? Well, Trinity Fatu, all reports are indicated that she is on her way back to WWE, and it's imminent. Sooner rather than later is one of the reports that I came across. So, again, all of this right now is pretty hearsay, though. You know, we heard that about Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, and then money got in the way, and talks were put on hold. You know, so you could hear all this thing about Sasha's coming back, Naomi's coming back, and all of a sudden they both show up, or Naomi stays, Trinity stays in TNA, and Sasha shows up there, Mercedes. Maybe they go to Alternative Entertainment Wrestling, AEW, right? But I thought they were going to WWE. You know, you got to take some of these reports with a grain of salt. Same thing with the CM Punk story. He is not showing up to Survivor Series. Even my people told me that. I felt confident enough to tell you guys that. I was live when CM Punk came back. Oh, I was like, damn, swerve. That's a good plot twist. So, you know, sometimes you got to take these reports with a grain of salt, but there is multiple reports saying that Trinity Fatu is on her way imminently to WWE. So that could indeed be one of the big surprises for the Women's Royal Rumble match. Jade Cargill face to face with Naomi. How badass. So we'll see. Speaking of returns, Andrade, there was talk that Andrade could show up to WWE's NXT this past Tuesday. Of course, Andrade just left a heartfelt message to his old company, AEW, and Andrade said, thank you to Tony, thank you AEW, thank you fans, all of that. He's just confirming what we already know. He's back with WWE. Now, there was reports he could show up on Monday Night's Raw this past week. Right before we heard talk of The Rock, Andrade was the front-running name. I felt that was a little disrespectful, whether it's bad terms or good terms with the company you were just with. To end your contract and then 24 hours later show up to, you know, the rival or the competition or the other company. I know it's totally legal because his contract ended at the end of the year. But then 24 hours later, I just feel like, man, just give it a little bit more. I used to say the same thing with WWF and WCW. You know what I mean? Like, have a little bit more respect. Unless it ended really bad between Tony Khan and Andrade, and then you're just saying, F you, I'm showing up to WWF now. WWE. But that's not what we heard, right? Tony Khan had good things to say about Andrade. Andrade said good things about Tony, and he just doesn't want to be there. And we heard that there was actually fighting beforehand. Like Andrade, it was big arguments. Andrade did not want to be there anymore. Tony didn't necessarily want to let him out of the contract or something. Because originally, the contract was not supposed to expire at the end of the year. Not a lot of contracts end right at the end of the year. That seemed a little suspicious. And sure enough, I don't know. The whole situation's weird. His wife, Charlie Flair, is there in WWE. He gets along with Paul Levesque. He's not being booked properly in AEW. He just wanted out, right? I mean, if you look at Andrade, right, just some of the numbers for you guys. Andrade was with AEW for 2.5 years. A lot of people don't realize that because he hasn't gotten a lot of camera time. But he was there for 2.5 years. Back in 2021, I believe he debuted, correct? He's had 41 matches. 41, that's it. 13 of those were in 2021, 14 of those were in 2022, and 14 in 2023 for a grand total, again, of 41 matches. 11 of those 41, by the way, 11 of the 41 was on Dark, Elevation, or Rampage. Not a lot of, if you add them collectively, that's not a big number at all. You guys know that. NXT would beat out all three of that collectively. So, 11 of his 41 matches, Dark, Elevation, or Rampage. Another 12 of those 41 was on Collision. Still a show that is trying to find itself and find viewership in the process. So right there, that's 23 of the 41 matches, not even on your flagship show, Dynamite. If you're wondering, that's 14 appearances on Dynamite. 14 on their flagship out of the 2.5 years he's been with the company. 2.5 years and only 14 appearances on Dynamite. Now I know you're doing the math. Well, that would leave 4 appearances left out of 41. You cover Dark, Elevation, Rampage, Collision, Dynamite. That still leaves 4 appearances. Those were pay-per-views. He's only been on 4 pay-per-views in 2.5 years. One was at Full Gear 2021. That was a losing effort to Cody Rhodes and Pac. Then it was Revolution 2022. He lost to Darby, Sammy, and Sting in a 6-man. Then All Out 2022, losing to the Joker in a Casino Battle Royal. And then World's End 2023, just last week, losing to Miro. So he's lost all of his only 4 appearances on pay-per-view. Now, obviously, guys, that's not good booking, right? When he showed up to AEW, most of us were saying, good, now he can be booked properly. Where Vince dropped the ball, TK will pick it up. Instead, it's one of those NFL plays where it's a fumble, but then both teams start fumbling the ball that's already been fumbled, and it looks like nobody wants it, right? So Vince fumbled, TK jumps on it, but bobbles it, gets up. They're both fighting over it. And everybody in AEW just started bobbling it. And it goes out of bounds before anybody gets possession. So nobody even came up with the ball. Vince has botched Andrade. TK's botched Andrade. Now, we're usually rough on Paul Levesque McMahon, and for good reason, but we are supporting this dude. 2024, we want the best out of WWE, which means we need the best Paul Levesque McMahon ever. And it can't just be the same dude from Black and Gold years ago, because we're not going to get that anyway. It's a different dude. He's older, some health issues. You're not going to get that same dude. He doesn't have the same masterminds around him either. That Black and Gold provided him. Dusty Rhodes, William Regal, the Smileys, all of them. Does have William Regal again, but he's in a much different role as well. But he just doesn't have this. So it's going to be a different Paul Levesque McMahon, but he's got to assemble a really badass team that cares about everything that is being produced on television. And even live events. Everything has to make sense, and you have to have some captivating television, man. Larger than life stars. We're really going to be supporting Paul Levesque McMahon. Again, when WWE is succeeding, everybody is. So as hard as we are on Paul Levesque McMahon, it's because we want to see him succeed badly. So, we're hoping that he takes Andrade and can do something special to where Andrade feels special. Like we care. When Andrade comes through the curtain, it shouldn't be just another guy. Hopefully we care about him. He was great with Zelina. I said the same thing when Rusev was with Lana, which they're trying to create in AEW, by the way. But it's obvious that it was not good booking, and anybody that's upset with Andrade for wanting to leave, why would you want to stay? Your wife, your good buddy, everybody's in WWE, and you're not being booked properly. So, of course he would want to leave. Now, there was talk that he would show up to NXT this past Tuesday. The right-hand man on my channel, JR9 Gaming, told me. I was live with you guys. Was it yesterday? A couple days ago? It was the Raw review. I think that was Tuesday then. I was live, and I think I believe that's when JR9 said that most likely or something, Andrade's showing up. So I said, all right, well, we'll see. JR9's usually got a good pulse on NXT. So I was able to catch a lot of that show Tuesday night while doing other paperwork for another project. And I didn't catch the whole show, but I really wanted to see Andrade's debut back in WWE NXT. He never did show up. The former world champ that they were talking about was Kevin Owens. You talk about a disappointing letdown. JR9, I told you, this news thing isn't easy, is it, man? And I got insiders. I got people in the inside that give me really good scoops. But even BC is wrong a lot. You know, a lot of people think you read some reports and then you just regurgitate it and you hope that it comes true. It's more than that, man. It's more. You got to first see the reports if you haven't already heard them. Then you got to check with your sources, and then you got to double check. Then you got to do a lot of digging, and then you hope that it's the accurate information. And even then, sometimes you just, things change. So, I did feel it was odd that Andrade would just show up to Monday upon those reports, and then upon reports that Tuesday he would show up on it. I just felt it was too rushed. Why is he just running out there? And him showing up to NXT, that's odd. Very odd. I know he's a former champ, but, that's how you're going to bring this guy back? I don't know. I did feel it was odd, but he did not show up. But I was able to catch. I'm glad I actually did. I'm glad JR9 tipped me off to that, because I was able to catch, like I said, some of that show, and I got to see 2 ladies matches in a row. Just happens to be right? I have a handful of ladies that I just think the world of. 2 of them is Roxanne Perez. It's always going to be Roxy to BC. Roxy and Tiffany Stratton. I just think they're amazing. And I actually got to see Roxy in action. She defeated Ariana Grace via Pop Rock's finisher. But then the referee reversed the decision because Roxy kept putting the boots to Ariana Grace. And even put her, was it the label lock? She had the submission on. I think it was the label. She has this submission locked in, and Ariana's crying out, and the referee actually reversed the decision. I love this. You're thinking, well, BC, you just said you love Roxy. The referee reversed the decision. That's wins and losses. They definitely matter. But if it's part of the story, that can be overshadowed. It can be trumped by the good, right? So the good here, yes, the decision got reversed and she took an L. But look at how it was done. This used to be done back in the day when somebody would go against what the referee was ordering. He would actually reverse the decision. A lot of people cry about it because the match is over, so you really can't do that. Yes, pro wrestling, they've always done that. WWE, they've always done that. They just stopped it for years. I actually love that. It's no harm, no foul. Both people actually won, right? Roxy actually won the match, but she was so dastardly afterwards, so badass, she wasn't stopping. It got reversed. So the person that got their ass whooped, defeated and beaten up, they actually won the match. So they have something to brag about too. I don't mind this at all. And I'm not just saying that because I'm high on Roxy. That was pretty well done. Then I got to see Tiffany Stratton. It was the very next match. Tiffany Stratton was defeated by Fallon Henley via pinfall. Stratton will now be a ranch hand on Fallon's farm for a day. The only reason I'm okay with this defeat of Tiffany Stratton is because I know the bigger story at hand. When I found out that Tiffany could be a ranch hand for a day, I knew she was losing. I knew she was losing this match. Because they're going to put this prissy girl that you would see walking down Fifth Avenue shopping, right? Walking California Rodeo Drive shopping. You're going to put her on a farm, cleaning up horse shit. I just knew that's what they were doing. And for the storyline, I am okay with it. Just like I said about Roxy, I'm okay with losses as long as there's meaning behind it. Put a story behind it. Make us care about what's next, not just a loss for the sake of a loss or a W for the sake of a W. For instance, AJ Styles, he was irrelevant for 2 straight years before he took off on the hiatus injury, unfortunately, and he just came back. But he was irrelevant for 2 years. But if you looked at his wins and losses, AJ Styles actually won like 90+% of his matches. So how was he irrelevant? He was just winning for the sake of winning. He wasn't involved in anything. There was no stories. You didn't care about AJ. We all like AJ. We just couldn't care about him. So he was winning all these matches. He was just irrelevant. Don't just have W's for the sake of W's or L's for the sake of L's. Have meaning behind them. Tiffany took this L. But damn, watching her on a farm cleaning up horse shit, even BC's got to catch that. And there's talk of a botched moonsault. I always say, if you want to learn how to do a moonsault, learn from Io Shirai, Io Sky, and Tiffany Stratton. Their moonsaults are impeccable. They're amazing. It's top notch. Nobody comes close. But this botch by Tiffany, the reason I'm giving this a pass is because she was never supposed to hit it, right? It was supposed to set up the finish. Henley's supposed to be out of the way. It looked like Tiffany didn't like where Henley was. I'm not blaming Henley, by the way, just miscommunication. Because once she saw that, that's when the little slip-up happened on the ropes. And you could see that it wasn't, but she was already, if you go back and watch, Tiffany was already altered to the right side. She never pulls that much to the right, not even with a botch. So you see the little slip up on the ropes, but her mind was already made up. She was going far right. It's almost like she thought she was still going to connect with Henley. So there was a miscommunication. If this was a full out, this was the finish of the match, she's going to hit it, guys, that would have never been a botch. But she already had in her mind that she had to miss it a certain way and then had to call an audible, and it ended up being a pretty big. So it's a botch, no question. But if that was like your first Tiffany match, for instance, trust me, and it's not just a moonsault. She springboards herself. She jumps up, bottom, middle, top rope, and then moonsault. I mean, she literally no hand. Look, ma, no hands. Remember when you're just learning how to ride a bicycle? Look, ma, no hands, right? And she's screaming at you, put both hands on. You're going in front of a Mack truck, middle of the road. Look, ma, no hands. Tiffany Stratton, no hands, just fucking catapults herself up, climbs the ropes, feet only, no hands, and goes right to a subsequent moonsault. It's a thing of beauty. So I'm letting the botch pass. And again, she was never supposed to hit that anyway. Also on NXT, what did I catch? Oh, I was able to catch Tony D and Stax with their new lady, their new I don't know. No, I don't think it's any of their main squeezes, right? Maybe it's a Goomba. Ariana. No. Ariana was going against Roxy. It was no, that's also isn't it also Ariana? Wait a second. Is there two Arianas? Isn't there an Ariana Grace? Yes, there is. Ariana. I think it's Ariana Rizzo. I'm going to double check that. There might be two Arianas. I think they were making a play on The Sopranos. Remember there was an Ariana? There was an Ariana on The Sopranos, one of the lead characters. And it's almost like they were trying to recreate that. I think it's Ariana Rizzo. And they're trying to just recreate kind of the Sopranos character. But that would mean there's two Arianas. Maybe one's Ariana, one's maybe Ariana. Maybe I have one of the names totally botched. Who knows? We'll see. But I was able to catch that as well. I'm really loving this Italian faction they got going, man. Pretty cool. And of course, they got the tag titles anyway. So we'll see. And she's a beautiful girl, too. So we'll see on that front. But I was able to catch a little bit of NXT. I wasn't able to catch any Dynamite this week. Tail end. I got home really late, man. Some meetings went a little extra long. A lot of good writing, though. We got a lot accomplished. And when I got home, there was about a couple minutes left, so I wanted to see how Dynamite was going to finish. Who was in the main event? Guys, it was Dan Garcia versus Swerve. Like, all of this epic things, all these epic things happening in WWE right now. Punk and Seth and Roman and Rock. And is Cody finishing a story or starting a new chapter? Is he going to write a new book? Who knows what he's doing? But all of this stuff is happening, right? Day one, you got the Rumble coming up. AJ Lee's teasing. Sasha Banks is teasing. Naomi's coming back, we're hearing. Andrade just switched over. All of this epic things over in WWE. And AEW is putting Dan Garcia and Swerve in their main event. And it just ended. Swerve just pins Dan Garcia, and then they beat up Dan Garcia after, and then Hangman comes out, and Hangman Page and Swerve are face to face. Good pop for Hangman Page, and then all of a sudden, like when the music stopped, the crowd was like silent. And it was funny because when I turned on AEW, I like to see the atmosphere. How is everything? You know, what did I miss? What do I have to go back and check out? When I turned it on, they were zoomed in on like Swerve or something. And all I could see is in the background, the crowd. You got this person just guzzling soda. The girl next to him is just like kind of like leaning on him. The crowd is just like, I didn't know if it was tennis or what they're watching. Right there, that gave me the atmosphere. I was like, oh, and then I saw the match, Dan Garcia and Swerve, and I'm like, what are we doing, man? This is so... Man, I always say, pay attention to what you're doing, not your competition, but you also have to read the room. If they're lightning hot, if WWE is lightning hot, capitalize on that. You know, there's no reason to have Swerve and Dan Garcia as a main event. The live crowd is like, very odd. Very, very odd choice. The guy on the outside screaming out, "Whose house?" 200 people in the audience, because it wasn't everybody. 200 of them at least said, "Swerve's house." I'm like, what am I doing? I'll watch the finish. And it just ended with Swerve. Everything is somebody's cup of coffee, right? And a lot of things is just not other people's cup of coffee. That's all I'm going to say about that. Anyway, guys, that's what I got for you. Top guys, we're out. Until next time, and there will be that next time. BC, saying check you. Peace! Go long! Go long! Come on! Come on! Get amplified! Go long! There you go. How you doing, huh? I said go long! Oh, hold up. We ain't done yet. I forgot to talk Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth, making his debut over in Japan, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Wrestle Kingdom 18, I believe, going face-to-face with David Finlay. So Dolph Ziggler, his first big appearance since getting the axe over in WWE. I expect this to be the first of many big things to come from Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth. So a little update, a big update, especially for Ziggler fans out there. Nick Nemeth, I think he's going to be doing a lot of work with his brother as well. What do they call themselves? I think they call themselves the Hollywood Hunks, I believe. So I expect a lot coming out from Dolph Ziggler. Nick Nemeth, Ryan Nemeth, Hollywood Hunks. But David Finlay and Dolph, Nick Nemeth, face to face. So I did just want to give that shout out over to Nick Nemeth. Good to see him back doing his thing. A little update there. All right, for real. Now, top guys, we're out. Peace.